You've heard it say. I don't know if David has.
I thought Steve wanted me to tell you the story of Aunt Puss.
Why don't you tell it because I don't know if you're going to write it. Because you have all, now you're delegating and...
No, I probably won't write it.
Well then...
Aunt
Ellen,
Puss.
tell me the story of Aunt Puss.
Aunt Puss was a very unusual character. Well, just like her name is. Her name was Sophia Spur. And the little grandson, who was my grandfather, couldn't say it very well. So it came out as Puss. Sophia Spur is a little bit of a mouthful. And she was always called Aunt Puss. Well, she grew up with two sisters, and they were a little on the poor side. I don't really know the details of them, but I know Aunt Puss was real smart. She got us up a job in the shoe factory in Stoneham, where we live, where they all live, the Sweetses live. And because she was smart, I guess, and capable, she was a fancy stitcher. That was her job. In those days, you know, they had high shoes and fancy shoes and all kinds of fancy stitching. And that was her job in the shoe factory. She was a fancy stitcher. Well, she was a fancy stitcher in more ways than one, because she ended up by marrying the one who owned the factory. And his name was Kimball. So she didn't have to worry about money anymore. And they...
Do you know anything about how she snared him?
No, I don't know anything about that.
She probably just used the regular female way.
I have no idea. I have no idea. It's her second husband that I knew more about because I was there at that time. I don't know just when her first husband died. After he had died, we would invite her and usually Uncle Fred for holiday meals. Well, Uncle Fred was their coachman, but he sort of took care of her and managed the place. And it was in Stoneham, Mass. And the next thing I heard about, they got married. She was 52 and he was 28. Now here, Logan is, how old?
24.
24. Well, he was a little older than Logan, but I don't think Logan could imagine marrying someone who's 52 years old. But anyway.
Definitely not. No.
That's how that happened. And they did all kinds of adventures. One was to go to Alaska. Aunt Puss was always going to make a lot of money. That was her goal. And she just fell for any money-making trap. So anyways...
Well, wait a minute, she already had a lot of money because she had married the mill owner.
I know, but she wanted to make more.
Yeah.
And so they went to Alaska. They bought land out, or she did. And he went with her, Uncle Fred. And I don't know quite how they got there. When you think of it, it was way back. Way back.
No, Elk Cannon Highway.
Probably, but
No,
I don't think they went by car. I think they went by train,
boat.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah, probably went by boat.
Boat or train. Anyway, so they went to Alaska and they bought, I don't know how many acres of land, but quite a bit. And they were there 5 years. And when they got there, there was no road into their property. It was land bound. There was only a footpath. So they had to truck everything in on the back that they wanted to use in their property. And they had to start in and build a house. I don't know about all those details either. I just knew about the various escapades that she led him on. But as my mother said, the family was a little shocked about the whole arrangement. And she said she finally decided it was the best thing that could have happened. He was happy, she was happy, and he took care of her.
Could you care to comment on what you referred to as several escapades that he led her on,
Well,
or she led him?
escapades. Well, one thing, she was always buying something, buying property here or there. She bought land in Florida that turned out to be underwater land. High tide, it was covered with water. So that was a scandal. And she got into quite a few scandals. She also bought a beautiful point of land up in Maine, Wiscasset. It was a sea captain's house out on the point.
Maybe we still own it.
Well, she owned that about 5 years and then she sold that. She used to go into Boston, I know, she used to go into Boston. She was legally blind. she'd go down and take the trolley in Stoneham, Mass, and chug into Leechmere, change trolley cars, and go into Boston, find the office where her legal people were, did her business, and she'd trudge back again. What do I need anyone with me for? I'm perfectly able to go myself. That was her attitude. But the best thing of all was she saw all these money-making schemes in these little magazines. You know how, oh, you're going to sell this kind of soap or this kind of body lotion, and you double your money or triple it. And so she'd send for these things, and up on her third floor, under the beds and on the bed, she'd have all these boxes of, oh, this is my shampoo, and this, all these things. She was a little eccentric, to say the least. But the thing that
Did you ever meet Uncle Fred, this young coachman?
Oh, sure, he was nice. We liked him. I used to sit in his lap. I can remember that.
Did he love her? He seemed to love her.
Oh yeah, I
He
think
was
he
devoted to her?
did. They had a great time together.
How old were you when you were sitting in
Well,
his
I
lap?
remember sitting in his lap. I might have been first grade, because he used to call me Helen, and I'd say, no, my name is not Helen. I'm Ellen. And he said, okay, Ellen, I'm going to remember that. The next time I remember to call you Helen. You know, he just loved to tease me about my name. But then he had these long earlobes, and I'd sit in his lap and I'd go like this.
That's a great memory.
It's a great memory. But let's see, what else would we do?
Well, in terms of the neighbors that, or the family members that look at this, she's 50-something, he's 28. What was the rumor? What was the scuttlebutt? I mean, how scandalous was it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, John. I have no way of knowing what the neighbors said. But I do know that in her stable, where you keep your horse and buggy, which was attached to the house, she had her cemetery stone.
Really?
She is the one who had the big red stone out in back of ours,
Mm.
and there's 1, 2, 3 small stones beside it.
In the Stoneham Cemetery?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pine Grove, right where ours is. And in the middle stone was Maria. And Sumner Kimball, that was his name. And then Uncle Fred was over here. Well, she says, mine's already, all you have to do is put the numbers on it, and you can just take it down there and I'll be all set. Oh gosh, she was funny. Oh, I've always remembered this about Unitarians. I'll have to tell my daughter-in-law Mary this story about the Unitarians. She was a Unitarian, and she did not believe in Christmas. No, she didn't believe in Christmas. And it was just a lot of marketing, and people just wanted to make money, and it had nothing to do with church. Anyway, and on and on. So she wasn't going to buy any Christmas presents. She never did. Well, it got to be about the day before Christmas, and then she began to feel guilty. Every year it was the same thing. And she said, well, I think I want to have something. If I'm going to your house for Christmas dinner, I like to have something for everybody. And so she'd go up on the third floor, and she'd take out the bottle of shampoo and a bottle of hand cream and a bottle of face cream and soap. All these things, and she'd wrap them up and bring this bag of presents, and we all knew what it was going to be. I don't know if I get this. Oh, I got this shampoo last year. Anyway, and she said, well, I decided I wanted to give you all something. You have so much fun giving to each other. I decided every year the same thing. So I was in the 7th grade, so Dave must have been the 8th grade. Christmas, we had our little presents and stuff, and he was over by the window, kind of like this, looking out the window, and I went over, tears in his cheeks.
Uncle Dave.
Uncle Dave. I said, what's the problem? He says, if Aunt Puss thinks I'm so dirty that she has to give me bars of soap every year for 3 years, I'm not going to her house anymore.
Really? That's sweet. Poor guy.
I said, you know what she's like, Dave. She doesn't even remember what she gave to you. She just took something because she wanted to have something to give to you. Well,
But he was that sensitive?
why is it always a bar of soap? Yeah, he was very sensitive.
So they were in Alaska for 5 years. Then what?
Yeah, I think it's like
I'm sorry?
They were in Alaska for 5 years.
Oh, then they came back. Well, then she had her episode up at Wiscasset, Maine. They went up there every summer until she decided that they guess they'd sell the house. My mother went up there one time. She was a beautiful place, way out in the bay, a lovely point of land. Okay, and then she invested a lot of money in AT&T, and there was some Kirk who got it all away from her because he was able to slide papers. That's what they said. He slid papers under other papers that she signed. So she signed something of, I don't know whether she was assigning it over to him. Anyway, they proved it, and he was told he had to pay it to her, but I don't think he ever did. I don't know quite how that came out, but that was a big thing. That was as soon as Uncle Fred died. Then all these swindlers were at her door again. So that was kind of the story with that.
Why did Uncle Fred die?
When?
Why?
Oh, I don't know.
You mean the young guy?
Uncle
He was
Fred-
a young man?
Well, he was 28 when they were married. He probably was 50-something. He was
But she
pretty-
outlived him.
Yes. Oh, she way outlived him. She outlived both of her husbands. And she was tiny. She was about 5 feet tall, and
Really?
yeah.
Did she drink?
I don't know. But she'd driven, they'd gone all the way down to Wiscasset, Maine and back, and one day my mother took her, and they got almost home. She said, Ruth, I'd like to stop at a food place. He says, I want to buy some fried clams. She said, you're going to eat fried clams? She was like 85. And she says, of course I am, why not? My mother thought she'd be a little tired at 85 and a long trip, and nope, I can have fried clams. Oh, she was spunky, spunky and spocky, to say the least.
So then after that, till she's 85, then what happened? How long did she
Well,
live?
her house was on the corner. I can show it to you. It's still there. It really looks bad now. It's kind of an old, not quite a tenement-looking house, but almost. It was on the corner, but the corner was empty, and it was nice grass with flowers all around. Inside there was a fence like that, and then the house was here, and the driveway up to the stable was over here, so it was sort of the whole corner. It was a mansard roof house, I remember that. And I went by it the last time I was down there in Stoneham. The grass is all paved over for a parking lot. And the house needs painting, and, everything has its season, as we say.
Yeah.
So that was Aunt Puss.
Was she related to the grandmother that you went to Gloucester with?
No, she was related to my grandfather, and my grandmother was his wife. So Aunt Puss was, well, she was an aunt by in-law, an aunt-in-law.
Yeah.
She was married to my husband,
Your father's brother.
grandpa, who was her.
Grandfather's brother.
Yeah. It was very interesting. Both Grandpa Quincy's, Grandpa Sweets's father died very early. So it was in the cemetery. He was 22 years old or 23,
God.
very young at sea. And my grandmother's father did also. He died very early at sea, 23 or 4.
She would go to the Gloucester Memorial with the grandmother.
For the men who went down to the sea in ships, the monument.